Hey guys, Jack Spirko here with another episode of Jack's Low Carb Journey. We're calling today, but my bread and potatoes with like Rhodes, if you are familiar with that argument for statism. And so we're going to talk about that today. Before we do, let's go ahead and give you my report on my weight loss. As I said yesterday, I expected to hit 227. Today or tomorrow at the latest. I did in fact hit exactly 227.0 today, this morning, on weigh-in, which means that I have officially lost, 20 pounds. It's kind of, I know it doesn't really, if it's a 21, 19, 20, but humans, we kind of fixate on numbers, and 20 pounds is a pretty good landmark weight loss. I did 20 pounds of loss in 32 days. I'm pretty happy with that. The way I'm looking at it, modifying things, my goal is to get down to around 200 pounds, which I think would be great for me. And by the end of the year, I should be about 205 if everything keeps going the way that it's going. And that's being pretty conservative as I lose more weight. And as I've always said, as you lose more weight, that's what happens. As for what I've been eating, yesterday was mostly leftovers. The sausage that I make with jalapeno and garlic, duck eggs, salad. My lunch salad, lunch fast salad was made mostly of arugula. And then last night I had a really great salad with like an ounce of pecans mixed in with it, a couple tablespoons of pumpkin seeds, some leftover salmon from the night before, a couple pieces of bacon, some blood orange infused olive oil, some stuff like that, about an ounce and a half of cheese. Came in with my caloric, and I do monitor my calories based on the recommendations at a whopping 7 over, which I'm not really worried about. Being pretty aggressive with the caloric restriction, in at about 1,900 calories for my size, weight, and activity level. It is working quite well. Now let's talk about my kind of main subject for the day. But my bread and potatoes, man, my bread and potatoes. Somebody made a comment yesterday, and I don't mean to be hard on the person, but it was based, and I won't get it exactly right, but it read something to the effect of, how long are you going to lose weight? Will you ever stop losing weight? Well, I hope so, because if you don't, you die. And my God, I cannot envision my life without ever having bread and potatoes in it. Okay, I want to start out before I kind of sound a little harsh here with, when you are at weight and when your metabolic numbers from your labs look good, you can probably live on 50 to 70 carbohydrates a day on average. And sometimes when things get a little out of whack, pull back and occasionally have a cheat day and go a little bit beyond that, as long as you monitor things and don't start eating mindlessly again. And a 50 carbohydrate a day diet is incredibly carb restricted for modern America. Additionally, if you are at 50 to 70 carbs as a male, especially, and you are eating a reasonable caloric load designed for maintenance, so you don't, like, you are at weight, you don't want to get any heavier, but you don't need to lose weight anymore, you're going to spend a lot of time in ketosis, especially after periods of activities. And at that point, if you go to the gym and lift some weights or take a long hike or do a run or something like that, eating an apple or eating 3 or 4 ounces of potato that day with your meal, as long as you're using good fats, if you're frying it, etc., and you're balancing out the rest of your macros, that's probably fine. But when you're trying to lose weight, no, you don't get an apple, and you don't get potatoes, and you don't get pasta, and you don't get any of it, because you're trying to lose weight that you chose to put on yourself. And what was funny is it's actually sad, but that comment came right about the same time I got the email I'm about to read to you right now. This is a real email from a longtime listener of my podcast that you can find at tspc.co, and it's heartbreaking. But I'm going to read it to you because I want you to get a effing, this is YouTube. I want you to fucking dose of reality, okay? Here you go. Jack, I was listening, this is episode 2305 of my podcast is what he's referencing, and I was talking about people saying that I'm putting way too much time and effort into designing and planning my meals. And this is what he had to say. Jack, I was listening to the opening of episode 2505. You mentioned your progress with your diet. I want to say way to go. You also mentioned people who whined about the time involved with meal prep. When I started listening to your show, I just saw it dabbling in paleo and keto, but like others, I really didn't want to waste time with meal prep and spend extra money on such a diet. Now looking back, I wonder how much time and money I really saved. As a result of being obese all of my life, I became diabetic. In the span of about a year, the diabetes cost me an eye and my kidneys. Now, yes, I'm blind in my left eye, and I'm on dialysis. So how much time did I save by not meal planning? I can't really see. However, I can say I would love to have my eye back, and I would love to get the 4 hours a day, 4 days a week that I spend on dialysis back. As for my diet, I've lost over 60 pounds, almost completely stopped using insulin, and my blood sugars are near normal. As for the ones who don't have time to properly plan their diet and are obese, I would tell them to get off their lazy fat rear end and lose the weight. They'll spend the time and the money one way or the other. Sent from my iPhone, Randy. I feel horrible for Randy, and I feel like, with him being a listener to my podcast and taking so long to really take this serious myself, I feel partially responsible. And you might say, how can you be responsible? Well, I saw a message on Facebook also yesterday from a guy that's extremely obese, like over 500 pounds when he started. And this man has lost well over 100 pounds and is continuing to lose weight. He did 100 pounds in a year. Now, you might say, well, the guy's still about 400 pounds. You know what? 100 pounds in a year is a lot of weight lost. And if the guy keeps going, it's going to save his life. But you know what he said? He said that I made one offhand statement one time about some 500-pound guy that had nothing to even do with weight loss. And it hit him in the face. And he was like, I need to do something. He went out and bought a 500-pound scale, brought it home, stepped on it. It registered an error. And in less than a year, he's lost 100 pounds. I hope he keeps doing it. But when you're an influencer, and I saw a good friend of mine say, what the hell is an influencer today? An influencer is everybody in the world. But when you are an online influencer, in other words, your words carry weight, you'd have a responsibility to think about how you use those. So let me use my words to try to get through you today about my bread and my potatoes. If I have to never eat another piece of bread or a roll or a potato again to not end up where Randy ended up here, to not end up losing an eye or a foot or a hand or shortening my life by 20 years, I will do it happily. You cannot come into this way of living and worry about what you can't have. I do believe sugar is an addiction, and I would like you to compare it to somebody going, but if I go in rehab, I'll never be able to have heroin again. And how stupid that sounds because of where the road of continuing to use heroin will lead you. You stay on heroin long enough, and you better pray you go to prison. It might save your life by forcing you to get off of it. Now, do I think that means you can never have a carbohydrate again if you go keto? No, I don't think that at all. But I think that you should purge your house of everything that you shouldn't be eating until you're at weight, or at least until you're close. And I think you should stop whining and crying like little fucking children about my bread and my potatoes. How will I ever survive without my rice? Shut the fuck up, seriously. I mean, good God. Again, if you are healthy and happy and you go to your doctor and you get your blood work done and all, and it comes back and you are the picture of health, eat whatever you want. I don't care. But if you're fat, if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, right? If you are going to die early and you leave your loved ones behind, if you are in a position to give yourself freaking Alzheimer's, as the newest research tells us that Alzheimer's is basically diabetes of the brain, and even people without type 2 diabetes that suffer from Alzheimer's, they develop insulin resistance in their fucking brains. And you're gonna bitch and cry and whine over a fucking potato like a fucking child? Are you a child or are you an adult? The answer to the question of how long will I lose weight, as long as it fucking takes to not be a risk of dying or losing my freaking extremities or going freaking senile when I don't have to and leaving my wife to deal with it. That's how fucking long I will lose weight. And you know what bitching I get to do about not having a potato or a tortilla or a bag of fucking chips? Zero. Because I'm the one that chose to eat the fucking food irresponsibly, chose to drink way too much fucking alcohol, and chose to make my ass way too fucking fat and put my health at risk. If that's not you and you're healthy and you have your own diet regime, eat whatever you want. But don't bitch. Don't cry. Don't tell me, well, I'm 30 pounds overweight, but my God, I can't live without bread. Fucking yes, you can. You can have filet fucking mignon. You can have pepperoni. You can have bacon. You can have sausage. You can have over easy eggs cooked in bacon grease. You can have massive fucking salads. Shut the fuck up about what you can have and revel in what you can have. Or keep fucking eating the way that you're eating. And eventually, you will kill yourself. And let me be real clear to some of you guys who are thinking, but Jack, I'm thin. I eat whatever I want. I'm thin. What do your numbers say? Do you have metabolic syndrome? Are you pre-diabetic? I really recommend you watch another documentary. I've recommended a lot of documentaries. There's one called Carb Up. Starts out with a guy. He was 168 pounds when he graduated high school. He went to the doctor in his early 40s. Still 168 pounds. Could wear the clothes that he went to school with and ate, according to the standard American diet, fairly well. Gets there, doctor says, oh yeah, guess what? You have fucking diabetes. Don't think just because you're thin, you're healthy. Some people can eat garbage and stay thin. When people get thin? When they're dying of cancer, they get really thin, don't they? Thin itself does not equal healthy. So, either you want to take control of your life, and again, a lot of people will do really well, 70, even 100 carbs a day. But if you're basing your diet on the fucking food pyramid, you're basing your diet on a lie told by a scumbag funded by big food that all started with something called the seven countries study, which originally started as over 30 countries. And if you want to know how it worked out to be, hey, eat all this grain and shit, look up the term data raking. That's something scientists do all the time. That's why you can't trust scientists. That's why you can't trust studies. What you can trust is science, and that means you need to understand methodology and learn about it. So look up data raking. Data raking is where you have a sample, and the researcher says, I don't like the fucking result, so I'll just eliminate all these data points until I get the result that I want, and then I'll present my findings that way. It's done in all walks of science all the time, especially when it's funded by big industry. So ask yourself, do you really think the mainstream has any reason to accept this reality, even though it's killing people left and right? Let me ask you a question. If every American, if most Americans switch off of the Captain Crunch cereal, switch off of all the food that comes in a box and a package, all the stuff that's full of corn, sugar, and soy, how many industries crumble to the ground? How much money is at stake? It's trillions of dollars. People get knifed for $10. If you don't think industry doesn't give a shit about you enough to change for $1 trillion, you're just not that smart. There is no good reason for the mainstream to accept this reality, because it will radically have to transform our entire industrial and agricultural and food systems in America. And it's not going to happen anytime soon. But you choose what you put in your mouth, and you choose whether you kill yourself or not. And I always invite you, any of the claims that I make factual claims about science or history, fact check that shit. Go ahead. Prove me wrong, and I will come back on here and I will admit it. But go ahead, prove me wrong that Ansel Keys didn't data rake the 7-country study to get the data he wanted. Prove me wrong that he wasn't funded by big food to do what he did. And prove me wrong that he didn't form a cabal with government to force these dietary recommendations on America and sell it to us and screw the whole country over. Prove me wrong that this diet hasn't cost thousands, even millions of people their lives. Prove me wrong, and I'll admit it. Otherwise, shut up about your potatoes, shut up about your freaking bread, and save your own damn life, because no one's going to do it for you. Remember, the answer to all your problems and the cause of them is in your bathroom. There's a mirror on the wall. Go look at it. It's up to you whether the scale that's laying on the floor is your friend or your enemy. Jack out.